Alright, how's it going everyone? So today I've got another pose video for you guys, and I think I'm going to be doing these a lot more often. The reason being is I think most people watching my channel ultimately want to get better at drawing characters, and while the anatomy and perspective tutorials work, you also need to know figure drawing to be able to put it all into practice. So that's why I'm probably going to be doing these types of videos like 2 times a week. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of format I want to do with these. So right now, I already drew this is pre-recorded, and I'm just recording like post commentary over it. So I think the first thing I should talk about is what kind of figure drawing I'm doing right now, because there are a lot of different ways to do figure drawing. Like, for example, you can keep your forms very gestural and focus on the flow. You can focus on the perspective, you can focus on anatomy. What I'm doing is more so trying to capture the proportions, and I'm also trying to get better at drawing from reference. So I'm essentially just trying to copy everything exactly the way I'm seeing them. I'm still not sure how effective this practice is actually going to be. That's kind of what I'm still trying to figure out here, because if you want to get better at art, you have to practice it, right? But what you practice is important, because you can't just draw a lot and expect to get better. You have to actually practice with a specific goal in mind. That's kind of where a lot of beginners and content creators go wrong as well. They make videos giving you exercises that you can do, but those exercises don't really help unless the person doing them knows what they are for. Like, I see a lot of recommendations about gesture drawing, and then people end up filling up pages and pages of these 30-second gesture drawings. They don't really know why they're doing it or what they need to pay attention to. They're just drawing a lot of poses, and it's just a lot of wasted time. If you want to practice properly, you have to come up with your own exercises. You have to look at your own art, try to identify where your problems are, and then you need to basically puzzle out how you can get better at this particular topic. How did I start talking about this again? Alright, I was talking about how I don't know how effective this form of figure drawing is. So if you're copying what I'm doing right now, I don't know if that's going to be effective. But yeah, this pose, I made a couple mistakes with the angles. Like, if you look at her head, for example, in the reference, her head is angled downwards a lot more than it is in my drawing. And I think her left leg, the one that's going backwards, I straightened that one out a bit, whereas in the reference, it's going a lot farther behind her body. But that's actually kind of weird, because in my drawing, her back heel ends up in almost the same spot as it does in the reference. So I think it might be an issue with her neck. I think her neck might not be tilted far enough forward, and that's kind of throwing it off. But I'll try to figure that out later. I'm drawing a lot of vertical lines, as you can see with her foot right now. The reason why I'm doing that is because I'm trying to compare different landmarks on the pose to each other. Like I said, with her back heel, if you draw a line from that back heel up, you can see where it lines up with her upper body. And in this case, it doesn't line up with anything, which is information in and of itself. You'll see this a lot more with the next pose that I'm doing. I usually start with a vertical line down, which I try to place in the middle of the body. Usually I try to find the center of gravity. That's also something I'm still trying to work on. Maybe I should do some specific practice for center of gravity. That seems pretty useful as well. But then I place the proportions of the torso, so the head is at the top. Then I divide the upper torso into however many head proportions that's going to be. Usually for female characters, that's 2.5. For male characters, that's 3. Sometimes 2.5 as well, actually. And then from there, I draw the tilt of the shoulders and the tilt of the hips. I actually uploaded a video about how to draw simple poses, I think 2 days ago. And that actually shows my regular workflow. So if that was kind of confusing, I do suggest checking out that video. But anyways, this pose. So this pose is deceptively hard. And I think the reason for that is because of her upper torso, so the rib cage basically. It appears like there's a C curve if you look at her head, down her rib cage, down to her hips. But I exaggerated that C curve way too much. And I mean, there isn't really anything wrong with exaggerating, but that wasn't my intention, and that's kind of the problem. Intention is really important. If you intended to draw something one way and it turned out a different way, then I would say for the purposes of practice, it's wrong. Even if it turns out good, even if it turned out exactly like the reference you're trying to copy, if you were intending to do something else and the drawing turned out a different way, it's wrong no matter what. And if you want to get better at drawing, you just have to be honest with yourself on that and say that you messed up. So that's exactly what happened with this pose. I think I'll have to go back in later and try this pose again with the new knowledge that I have and see if I can actually do it right. Also, in my Discord server, we have a channel where we do figure drawings every single day, or at least post figure drawings every single day. So if you're trying to get better at this, I would highly suggest joining that. I also have this bad habit where my vertical lines are not perfectly vertical. They're always at an angle, and I think that's because I'm sitting, the way I'm sitting in front of my tablet, I'm sitting kind of at an angle, and my tablet is not at an angle. So then the vertical lines, they appear perfectly vertical to me, but then on the paper they aren't. So that's something that I'm also gonna have to try to fix at some point, because I think that's also one of the things that went wrong with this drawing. The line, that vertical line that I drew at the start, in my reference, that one is right in between her feet. If you're looking at the reference photo, if you go from in between her feet and you draw a vertical line up, it touches her face at about in between her right eye and her nose, which is exactly where I placed it in my drawing. But because that vertical line was angled, the entire pose turned out to be at an angle. And do I have anything else I wanted to talk about? I think maybe drawing from reference versus drawing from imagination. That's also something I've seen a lot, where people think that if you get better at drawing from reference, you'll get better at drawing from imagination. That's true to an extent. You know, the more reference drawings you do, the more you remember and the more you'll be able to draw from memory. But if you want to draw from imagination, that's something that you have to practice specifically. A good way to do that would be to grab a photo of the object you're trying to get better at drawing. So if that's a human body, just grab a pose like this one, for example. Then take around a minute, maybe 2 minutes, trying to memorize the details about that particular object. Then take the photo away and then try to draw it from memory. And then if you forget what something looked like, you pull up the photo again, look at it again for a minute, take it away, and then just rinse and repeat until you've drawn the entire thing. And then of course, knowledge of perspective and anatomy can help you with constructing things from imagination, which is why it's important to learn those particular topics. But yeah, that's basically it. You know, I think what might actually be good for videos like this is if we did some sort of Q&A, like you guys leave questions in the comics or the Discord, for example. That's pretty much everything I had to say, so I guess I'll just let the rest of the video play and you can follow along with it if you want. After this pose is done, there's actually a little section where I go over some of the mistakes I made with these poses, so I highly recommend you watch that section as well. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.